Yeah, I know. You're probably getting sick of seeing this camera. I'm not sick of seeing this camera, believe me. This is the Bolex H16 that I picked up thrifting a week ago today. And this is just a random quick video. Wanted to share with you my thoughts, not necessarily about the camera itself, but about the community of 16 millimeter filmmaking and the Bolex camera. I can't say I'm upset so much as I'm frustrated. And let me tell you where that frustration comes from. Simple things like learning this camera and learning how to load the camera, and little tricks and tips that I found, particularly when I was learning some of my digital equipment like the Nikon D300 and some of my analog equipment such as the Nikon FE2, the F3, the FM, the F2, the F4, the original F, because there is just a wealth of information on those particular cameras, and anything from the basic to the advanced. And in looking for information, similar information on this Bolex, I find a lot of what I call fanboy videos and people just gushing over the camera itself, speaking in warm, glowing terms about the experience of shooting a Bolex, which is great. And I have an appreciation for that. But I have not found very good videos that are step-by-step how-to videos for someone learning this camera for the first time. I am going to attempt tomorrow to shoot my first roll of film in the Bolex. I'm going to use the expired Tri-X that was in the case itself, and I'm going to rate that film at ISO 20. It is old film. It expired in 1964, and my understanding is that by rating the old formula, or some might call it a cliche, was to overexpose by one stop for every decade that the film is expired. So you start out with a base ISO of 400, you're going to get pretty down there. So we're going to shoot that at ISO 20. Now, people online were warning me about the positioning of the telephoto lens on this turret. Well, if that's cause for concern, we simply take that lens off and put the stopper on that hole so it becomes a non-issue. I think these are configured the right way. This is how I found it with these three lenses here, and some people were saying, oh, watch out for that 75 millimeter lens. It's going to interfere with your taking lens. Well, you have to dig deep, and I found online that if your turret is configured this way, you're going to be fine. But for those of you who are telling me you're doing it all wrong, That's not how you do it. Well, we have a simple bayonet mount, a cine or C receptacle. We're simply going to unscrew it. Now, others have said, well, when you're loading the film, you need to turn your frames per second down. Well, look at that. It's down. But then others, when they go through the loading process, don't even mention this. They don't even tell you to turn it down to 16 frames per second. So I don't know. Then I've read elsewhere in some blogs that you need to load this thing in total darkness. There's no way in hell you can load this thing in complete darkness. Well, it turns out that the reels are daylight loading reels. So it's only going to fog the first couple of frames in the film. But then, to top it all off, another thing none of these Bolex people tell you, this device right here is used for your focusing. And what you do is you have your taking lens in that receptacle right there to focus. So you do your focusing through the lens. And this is another thing. People were saying, oh, it's too bad you didn't get a reflex camera. Focusing is going to be so difficult. No, it's not. You pre-focus. You focus the darn thing through this hole. And once you've achieved proper focus, you move the turret. Look at that. There's the through the lens focusing. And here is your taking receptacle. Look at that. This ain't rocket science, people. It just is not. I don't know why there's this tendency in the community to overcomplicate things or make it like proprietary information that only cultists know. But for God's sake, don't overcomplicate it. We sent men to the moon. They walked on the moon in 1969. Let me think. That is 17 years after this Bolex was made. They were operating these things and doing miracles with them in 1952. You know, I've seen footage shot with these cameras. It is amazing. Amazing. Andy Warhol. Some of the stuff he did with the screen test. And what was the other one? The Empire State Building at night. The guy did amazing stuff with these cameras. Amazing. I don't want to go off on a tangent, and I'll probably catch some flack for it, but personally, I think Andy Warhol was a genius. I think the guy was absolutely brilliant. And some of the stuff he did with a Bolex camera You watch stuff like the screen tests that he did with Bob Dylan or with Edie Sedgwick. They're incredible. They're absolutely incredible. He would film at one speed and play it back at a different speed. The guy took simplicity and made it into genius. And that's probably what went throughout his career, aside from the Bolex. But I guess what I'm asking for, I don't want anything spoon-fed to me. I don't want someone to hold my hand while I load this camera, because I am going to load it, and it is going to be locked and loaded for tomorrow morning. But the community has got to start welcoming new people into it and making things easier for people instead of this Wild West that's out there. I'm sure there's a lot of nice people out there shooting with Bolexes, and I'd love to meet them. I really would. But I wish there was more comprehensive, easy to grasp basics, like loading your camera. That's a pretty big one, I would say. And I'm going to look for some good ones tonight, but I haven't found any yet. And like I said, my confidence is very high that I'm going to have this thing locked and loaded by the end of tonight. I have the manuals for it. Yeah, they were written in 1952, but maybe I'll glean some information from it. Anyways, that's my rant. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're enjoying your Bolex. And I hope as a community that Bolex owners can be helpful to each other, especially those just starting out with these cameras. Take care for now.